Today, we're diving into a really simple story that holds a pretty profound secret for quieting a restless mind. And look, if you're a creator, an artist, or really anyone who depends on deep focus to do your best work, this lesson, it could honestly change everything for you. It all starts with a problem that I bet a lot of you know way too well, a mind that just will not shut off. That constant internal storm that just drains your energy and kind of steals your joy. All right, so let's meet the hero of our story, a young man named Marco. And as you can kind of see from the storm brewing here, his mind was in this state of constant, just exhausting turmoil. Now, what's so powerful here is how this slide just lays out this vicious cycle so clearly. You can see how being stuck in the past, always worrying about the future, it directly led to a present that was just filled with exhaustion, terrible sleep, and honestly, a total inability to find any happiness. I mean, he'd literally forgotten how to smile. But, right when things seemed their most hopeless, a little glimmer of hope appeared. Marco started hearing stories about this wise old man, a former psychologist actually, who was living out in some remote village and might just have the answer he was looking for. So driven by this one little bit of hope, he just decides to go for it. He sets off on what he knows is going to be a long, tough journey, but he's convinced that this man could be the key to finding the mental peace he so desperately needs. So after all that, Marco finally arrives, and he meets the wise man. But instead of getting some, grand lecture or really complex theory, he's given a simple, but as it turns out, incredibly profound physical task. Okay, so the challenge was laid out, and it was crystal clear. Take this glass of water, filled to the absolute brim, walk through the busy village and back, and don't spill a single drop. It was the test of pure, raw concentration. And this is what made it so tough, right? His path was just full of the exact kind of external noise that perfectly mirrored his own internal chaos. You've got people rushing around, shopkeepers yelling, dogs barking. It was a total minefield of distractions. And yet, he did it. He returned to the wise man completely successful. His entire focus, his whole being, had been concentrated on just one single thing, keeping that water steady in the glass. Okay, so let's get to the most crucial part of this whole story, because this right here is where the wise man reveals the real lesson behind that little test. The very first question the wise man asks has nothing to do with the water, nothing to do with Marco's success. Instead, he asks about what Marco hadn't noticed on his journey. And he keeps probing, asking if Marco registered any of the specific distractions that he walked right past along the way. And there it is. Boom. That's the key to the entire story. Marco's answer was simple. No, I saw and heard nothing else because my mind was completely absorbed in the present moment, on the task at hand. So what does this all mean? Well, the crucial point is this. By giving his mind a single, tangible focus right here, right now, that whole storm of past regrets and future worries, it just had no room to exist. It got crowded out by the now. Peace isn't something you go out and find. It's what's left over when you clear everything else away. And that right there, that's the essence of what we now call mindfulness. The secret wasn't hiding out in some remote village. It was a power Marco already had inside him, just waiting to be unlocked by focusing completely on the present. So the big question is, how do we actually apply this simple but really powerful lesson to our own lives? For anyone whose work or passion requires deep focus, I'm talking artists, writers, coders, any kind of creator, this is incredibly potent advice. You've got to find your glass of water, and it can be anything really. It's that one single task that demands your full attention. It could be writing one line of code, painting a single brushstroke, or editing a tiny piece of audio. When you give that one thing your all, you quiet that mental chatter, and you can enter a state of flow. You basically turn your work into a meditative practice. And that brings us to the final and most important takeaway. This story is really a challenge to you. Identify that one thing you can focus on so intensely that everything else just fades into the background. Because in that focus, you won't just find better work. You'll find the quiet, powerful peace that comes from being truly, completely present. So,